Hey, you're listening to Don't Make Sense. I'm Dr. Vivian Rodriguez, an educational psychologist, blogger, educator, and coach who loves to talk about style, life, creating, and mental health. Okay, so I started this podcast to create a space to talk about style and substance, to talk about the complexities of being a woman who's authentic and thriving. All right, let's get into it. All right, so in this episode, we're going to be talking all about morning routines and what I've learned in 2 years. So you like Amazon, but you don't know what styles to get? Go ahead and check out my Amazon Live. I'm an A-list creator, which means I do a lot of lives and people like them. So go ahead and head over to the show notes for this episode to go and join the live. And don't forget to follow me on Amazon. And then keep in mind, as an Amazon associate, I do earn from qualified purchases, and all opinions are my own. And I'll see you guys around. Hey, I know you guys do not have a ton of time to just be scrolling through social media. You got better things to do, right? So that's why I revamped and relaunched my Fave Finds newsletter. And what I did is, it's kind of in case you missed it. So I scour through the internet to find some styles for midsize and curves. And I also add just some different podcast episodes or books that I'm into lately, just some good stuff for your email inbox. So go ahead and head over to the show notes for this episode to sign up for my Fave Finds. And don't worry, I'm not going to spam your email inbox. It'll be some good stuff. Okay, so it's been about 2 years since I started my morning routine. So what I did was I started with waking up at 5 a.m. every morning. And the original idea was for me to go to the gym and, just try to get in there early and then come back and, do some journaling and get ready for work. And then I tweaked it where I was doing first journaling and writing and reading and then going to the gym. And it was turning into like, I was getting like 20 minutes. So I had to change it up. So what I do now is I get up about 5 a.m., sometimes like 4:40, and I will, do like as soon as I get up, I start my Apple Watch and start doing my walking on my walking pad. And as I'm walking, then I'm doing my reading and journaling, and then getting into working on my blog. So I've been doing that, and it's been 2 years since I've been getting up early. And this is what I have learned, and maybe it'll motivate you to go ahead and get a morning routine started. All right. So I've learned a few things since starting my morning routine. I'm going to get into each one. The first one that I've learned, the first lesson I've learned after 2 years of getting up early is it's my morning. I can do what I want. So funny. I think now like a lot of the morning routine kind of concepts or ideas are all over socials, and you see people who are doing like these really pretty morning routines and juicing and whatever and making their bed. And so it kind of comes with some pressure and expectations. I had started with doing the Miracle Morning Routine with the SAVERS acronym, which stands for scribing, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, and reading. You kind of get to a point where you need to kind of figure out your rhythm and what's going to work for you, despite what you see on social media. You need to figure out what's going to work for your lifestyle, what your priorities are, and also like what season you're in. So that's what I've ended up doing. And one of the things I've learned is my morning is my morning. I can do what I want. So although I make sure to read, journal, and exercise every morning, I fit in activities that are more important to me too. So for example, it takes time to do work on my blog or to create content. So it's time that sometimes I don't have if I wait till after work or after my other responsibilities. So I've carved out that time My morning routine includes working on my blog ideas for the podcast, and just anything that I need to kind of like work on that I want to be able to focus on in silence. And so having, going up, early, like, I mean, waking up early. So like getting up a little earlier, maybe like 4:40, that gives me time to do the exercise, do the journaling and reading. And then I also then have plenty of time to just chip away at my blog and content creation and things that I just want to kind of, fit in without feeling guilty, without distraction. And what I like about this too is that I noticed over time, I'm able to just kind of break things into steps and create a workflow, and then I can kind of project how much of the work I'll be able to, or the tasks I'll be able to get done by just putting in like 20 to 30 minutes on my blog or content creation. So it's fantastic. So I've been able to create more, I've been able to add more to my site, and I don't feel like it's taking away from other areas of my life or my responsibilities. And I'm also able to avoid getting burnt out because I'm just kind of plugging away at it. I had a professor in my doctoral program. He's, I'll be a chipper, just chipping away at something. So it's a nice, steady, sustainable pace. All right, the next lesson that I've learned from having done this morning routine for 2 years is that I have time to read a lot. So I think one of the things as you become a mom or parent or whatever, you just like adulting, you start to have less time to do the things that you enjoy. And, or maybe you do have a little bit of time, but then you're like, okay, I need to put in time with my family, or I need to do other things, or you're just straight up exhausted. So you then take away from those buckets of joy that can fuel you to be able to give more to others. So I've been able to read a lot of books over the course of 2 years. I think maybe I've read at least like 15 books, I would say, maybe even 20. So getting up early has provided me with the opportunity to read a lot. And this includes like I can go back on a book. Like, I don't know about you, but I dog ear books. So I will underline and dog ear and highlight and write little notes on books. I treat my books like textbooks. So I got a lot of books that are for like personal growth and development. And so then I'm able to go back and reread those sections of the book that kind of resonated with me. And then I can like do that while I'm waiting for another book. So if I had like a bunch of books lined up, kind of ready to go, I think I would get through even more books, but I kind of, want to make sure it's a book I enjoy and resonates with me, I find meaningful. So when I'm reading a really good one, and if I'm like, okay, what's my next one? If I haven't figured it out yet, I just go back and reread the other book the one I just finished. So with this reading, especially since I read a lot of like personal growth books, self-development, I've read sometimes on health, but most time it's personal growth, self-development, and leadership. Since I've been doing that, then I feel like the information I've consumed has improved my life and just how I move through the day. I feel like I'm more able to really pause and be mindful of what I'm doing, like kind of recognize my own patterns when I'm doing things that are like just stupid, or maybe I'm taking something personal that I don't need to, or I'm not stopping to think about the perspective of somebody else and having more compassion for them. So yeah, these books have helped me really do that, just really get into, a better understanding of myself and my patterns and, some of my own nonsense that I have to work on. So I think that is just like a major bonus of being able to wake up early and then read and also just read distraction free, just it's silent and I can just sit and really underline and dog ear all those pages with the information that resonates with me. Another thing I've learned is that monitoring my habits leads to building more habits. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, What I do is I kind of started doing this, I want to say, man, maybe when I have a 20-year-old. So I think when she was like 3 and I was running a lot, I was exercising, in the hopes of like losing weight, like going back to my pregnancy size and stuff like that, pre-kid size, which I did do by running a lot, but then it came back. So, but anyway, that's a different story. But my point was that at that time, what I was doing is I was monitoring, like logging the days I did what like I needed to do when I was, exercising, eating well, and running. And so I was really trying to work on getting better at running. And so I was logging the days. And so I noticed when I did that, that really made a difference in my motivation. It also kind of got me away from, other markers of progress. I wasn't looking at the weight as much. I was just looking at my progress and like keeping up something, keeping up some kind of level of consistency. So with my morning routine, I've been doing the same thing. So for the last 2 years, I will kind of, number my, not kind of, I will, I number my journal entries. Each day that I journal is the day that I know that I've done my reading, I've done my exercising, and I've done, some, just looking at my gratitude and all those things when I'm writing and reading. So by doing that, that's kind of like giving me a way to recognize my progress and keeping a habit up. It also just, I think it like motivates me too to keep going because I've stuck to it so long. It's like when if you have an Apple Watch and you close the circles or whatever kind of tracking system you have, you're like, yay. And it just kind of gives me a sense of little wins each day. And then I can look back. So I think I'm like on, because I start after I hit like 100 days. I think I started over or something. And then I was now I'm like a 386 or something. So something like that in terms of like journal entries. So it just helps me to, monitor my consistency. And I think kind of recognizing that I'm getting up, and doing what I said I was going to do and sticking with it, and that I'm committing to myself. So even though it seems like it wouldn't really be all that helpful, it really helps. It helps me because every time I do my journal entry, I have that number there that shows me how many days I've been doing it consecutively, and it's good. So there's that. The other thing I've learned that I feel like is super valuable and may motivate you to get up early too is that I've noticed that waking up early gets easier. It gets easier. In the beginning, I'd wake up, 2 years ago, and my eyes are still closed as I'm getting up. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And it was rough. I would say it took me maybe a good month for it to be not as like kind of abrupt in the morning. So I know that waking up an hour early every day sounds awful and probably sounds like nearly impossible to you because it sounded like that to me. I was like, not a morning person. I need my coffee and whatever. And I'll have another episode kind of getting into some of the hacks that I figured out along the way. However, if you just get started, it will get easier. In fact, I will say it gets automatic. So at this point, I wake up without an alarm on most days and I just get up and get started. So what happens is like, because now I've been like kind of waking up sometimes, not every day. If I feel like I'm pretty rested, I wake up at like 4:40, 4:45. But if I feel like I need a little bit more time, I'll wake up at 5 and, just do it. And it gets easier because I feel like your body just expects you to be getting up, and so it just kind of goes. So it doesn't sound like it would be the case, but I'm telling you, it just gets automatic. It's really easy, and I would not, I think at this point, be able to stay in bed. And I've even tried sometimes where I'm like, okay, I'm going to wake up 5:30. It's still, I just got to get up. Like it just doesn't work for me to stay, sleeping past 5:30. I just need, unless I'm like sick or something, but still, I need to get up. Okay, to wrap up, Getting up early in the morning has taught me that I can use the morning time however I want. So it can be where I'm doing journaling, reading, exercising, and I can vary the amount of time I spend on either one. If I really want to read more, I just read more, And if I want to make my morning routine go longer, like maybe on the weekend, I just spend like maybe 2 hours on my walking pad and I just keep going. It's also taught me that I can read a lot of books and I can use that information to change my life. And then also that tracking in my progress, tracking just my consistency in the habit and the activity makes a difference. That by tracking myself, I am creating like these markers for me to, have little wins. And then I'm just recognizing something I've been able to sustain and commit to. And then lastly, I've learned that waking up early can get easier. So it can become automatic. You just have to start. That's all. Just start and you'll notice that too. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. You can also share the podcast on Instagram and tag me at Live by Viv. As far as my music, it's The Croft by Joachim Karud. And everything we talked about in this episode can be found in the show notes on livebyviv.com. Okay, and remember, don't mix in because you don't need to.